How does it truly feel when your heart is filled with love for someone, yet your lips tremble at the thought of expressing it? That was the storm that raged quietly inside Darkwah. Darkwah and Baaba were more than just childhood friends. They were inseparable, like the roots of two trees twisted beneath the earth. They would race each other through the village paths, share roasted plantains after school, and whisper secrets under the moonlight on warm nights. From building toy cars with empty tins to fetching water and playing ampe in the dusty yards, their bond was pure and beautiful. As they grew older, the innocence of their friendship began to shift. Darkwah's heart beat a little faster whenever Baaba laughed. Her presence became his calm in the chaos, his joy in silence. He would always call to check on her, his voice laced with care. On weekends, he'd take her to cozy little restaurants, often pretending it was just a friendly hangout. Baaba, deep in her heart, knew that Darkwah loved her. She could feel it in his eyes, in his actions. But where were the words? Sometimes she would ask playfully, "So, do you have a girlfriend?" Darkwah would chuckle nervously. "For what? I've never proposed to anyone before." He hoped his actions would speak what his lips couldn't. But to Baaba, though the actions were sweet, they weren't enough. She longed for the words, for clarity. On her birthday, Darkwah was always the first to send a message. This year, his text read, "Happy birthday, Baaba. You've been a light in my life since we were kids. May your smile never fade. You deserve all the beauty this world can offer. I'm grateful for every moment we've shared. Enjoy your day, my star." As the Akan say, love is death, not coldness. To love is to surrender, to risk, to burn silently or speak boldly. Darkwah was still finding his voice, but time waits for no one. Aside these thoughtful gestures, Darkwah made sure Baaba never lacked anything. If she was in need, he was the first to show up, whether it was money for a new project, transportation, or even small daily expenses. He didn't wait for her to ask, he simply gave. On special occasions like Christmas or New Year, he would surprise her with beautiful African print dresses, perfume, customized slippers, and sometimes even an elegant necklace with her initials engraved. On one memorable occasion, he bought her a smartphone because her old one had a cracked screen. He even paid her rent once without blinking twice. In Darkwah's heart, he believed he was already her man. He was playing the role of a loving boyfriend, providing, checking in, caring deeply. In his eyes, Baaba was his, even if the words had not yet been spoken. But in Baaba's world, they were just good friends. She appreciated all he did, but until he said the words, she could not assume anything. She waited patiently for that moment of clarity. Many times, Darkwah would muster courage and call Baaba with the sole intention of telling her how he truly felt. But once she picked up, everything would fall apart. "Baaba, he'd stammer. "Yes, I'm listening," she'd say softly. And just like that, he'd switch the conversation. "Are you home?" "Yes." Within minutes, Darkwah would rush over to her house, pretending everything was normal. "I just wanted to come and see how you are. I hope you're fine," he'd say, hiding behind that warm, familiar smile. Inside him, his heart screamed with affection, but his tongue remained tied. The fire of love was burning him from within, but speaking it aloud felt like chewing hot charcoal. A few months later, Darkwah's best friend Bempa returned from Accra. One quiet Sunday afternoon, as he strolled through the old streets of Obuasi, he spotted Darkwah and Baaba walking together, laughing and talking like a couple wrapped in their own world. Their closeness was unmistakable. Curiosity pricked him. That evening, Bempa called Darkwah. "Darkwah, I saw you and Baaba earlier today." Bempa began casually but with purpose. "Tell me the truth. Is Baaba your girlfriend or your wife-to-be?" Darkwah paused. His heart pounded, and for a moment, silence filled the line. He wanted to tell the truth, that every beat of his heart whispered Baaba's name, but fear took the reins. "Oh, Bempa, we're just friends," he replied, forcing a small laugh to hide his unease. "Are you sure?" Bempa pressed. "Yes, just friends," Darkwah repeated, knowing full well he was lying to his best friend. Deep inside, it hurt to admit it. Not because it was true, but because he knew it wasn't. Meanwhile, Baaba had reached her limit. She had waited, months, years even, for Darkwah to gather the courage to propose. She had seen the care, felt the love in his actions, but still, no words. She began to fear that if she waited any longer, she might grow old, clinging to hope. She made up her mind. If another man came and proposed with clear intentions, she would accept. She was gradually growing tired of Darkwah's dead mouth, a silence that said everything and nothing at once. And yet, throughout the small town of Obuasi, everyone believed Darkwah and Baaba were already in love. Their names were often mentioned together in gossip, jokes, and admiration. Their bond seemed so perfect, so sure, that it intimidated other men. No one dared to approach Baaba. She was seen as taken, wrapped in a silent relationship no one could understand. But appearances, as they say, can be painfully deceiving. Not long after that conversation, something unexpected began to stir in Bempa's heart. He couldn't stop thinking about Baaba, the way she smiled, the way she walked, the calm confidence in her voice. It surprised him, even troubled him a little. After all, she was the one always seen beside his best friend, Darkwah. But ever since Darkwah had told him they were just friends, Bempa found himself silently entertaining the thought of Baaba in a different light. At first, he wanted to be respectful. He even considered talking to Darkwah again before making any move. But as days passed, he realized his feelings were too strong to ignore. Eventually, he decided to approach Baaba directly. One cool evening just after sunset, Bempa walked to Baaba's house. The air was still, and the town of Obuasi was winding down for the night. Baaba, seated outside with a book in her hand, looked up and smiled when she saw him. "Good evening, Baaba," he said warmly. "Can I have a word with you?" She nodded without hesitation. "Of course, Bempa. You're welcome." They sat down, and for a moment there was silence. Then Bempa asked carefully, "Are you engaged to my friend Darkwah?" Baaba sighed and replied gently, "No, I'm not. We're just friends." Bempa smiled, relief washing over his face. "Ah, then it's true. Darkwah told me the same, but I thought he was hiding something. I didn't want it to look like I was trying to snatch someone from my own brother." Baaba remained quiet, her expression unreadable. "But now that I know the truth," Bempa continued, "Baaba, I want to be honest with you. I've developed feelings for you, and I would like to get to know you better, not just as a friend, but as a man who's truly interested in you." Baaba looked at him, slightly surprised but composed. "Bempa, I hear you. Let me think about it." They exchanged contacts that evening, their conversation ending with a quiet, hopeful smile. In the distance, the night wind whispered secrets through the trees, unaware that a storm of emotions was about to brew between friendship, silence, and love. That evening, after Bempa left, Baaba sat quietly in her room, her thoughts heavy like a brewing storm. So all this while, Darkwah never truly loved me, she wondered, staring at her phone screen. The realization sank in deeper with every breath. He even told his best friend that we're just friends. The pain stung her heart like a betrayal wrapped in silence. She had assumed his care meant love. She had waited for the words, the confession. But it seemed she was clinging to a shadow. 2 days later, as twilight painted Obuasi in hues of gold and purple, Baaba made a decision. She picked up her phone and sent a message to Bempa. "I've thought about everything, and I've decided to give us a chance. I accept your proposal." Bempa responded quickly, his words full of joy and warmth. They chatted a bit, light, sweet exchanges about life, plans, and the promise of something new. The very next morning, filled with excitement, Bempa visited his best friend, Darkwah. They sat under the mango tree in Darkwah's compound, sipping sobolo in silence before Bempa cleared his throat. "Darko, I came to tell you something important. Baaba, she accepted my proposal." Darkwah froze. It felt like time itself paused. His chest tightened and his face fell. A frown creased his forehead as his hands trembled slightly. He tried to steady himself, but his voice betrayed the storm inside him. "Oh, wow, I see. Well, good luck then," he muttered, forcing the words through gritted teeth. Bempa smiled, unaware of the fire burning inside his friend. As soon as he left, Darkwah stood up and, without thinking twice, rushed to Baaba's house. She stepped out when he called her name, her face calm, almost expecting him. "What Bempa told me, is it true?" he asked, his voice low but shaking. Baaba looked into his eyes, and though there was a hint of sadness, she didn't flinch. "Yes, Darkwah, it's true." Darkwah said nothing. He stood there, his heart shattered, realizing the love he buried in silence had just slipped through his fingers into the hands of his best friend. That night, as darkness cloaked Obuasi, Darkwah lay on his bed, motionless. The silence in his room was deafening, interrupted only by the soft, painful sobs that escaped him. His pillow was soaked in tears, and his chest ached as if a knife had been lodged inside it. He kept replaying everything: Baaba's smile, her laughter, their walks, the countless times he almost said "I love you," but swallowed the words. Now, it was too late. He cried the whole night, mourning a love that never had the chance to bloom. By dawn, his eyes were swollen, red, and heavy. His body grew weak, not from sickness, but from heartbreak so deep it drained the strength from his bones. The next morning his family rushed him to the hospital when they found him unresponsive and pale. The doctor, sensing the emotional toll more than the physical, admitted him for rest and observation. Later that day, Bempa visited him, holding a bag of fruits and a warm smile. But Darkwah couldn't even look him in the eye. He said little, choosing instead to nod or force a half-hearted smile. He couldn't bring himself to tell Bempa the truth, that the very reason he was lying in that hospital bed was because of him and Baaba. In the evening, Baaba also came to visit. Her presence filled the room with a tense silence. She looked at him with gentle concern, but Darkwah couldn't speak. His pain was too raw, too deep to explain. All he could do was glance at her and look away. The silence between them said everything words could not. 3 days later, he was discharged, but the real healing had only begun. Darkwah spent his days in quiet withdrawal, but inside he was restless. His heart had become a battlefield of regrets. He began watching closely, monitoring Baaba and Bempa's blossoming relationship. He noticed their WhatsApp statuses, the occasional pictures together at local events, the new excitement in Baaba's voice when she talked to people around town. He would ask mutual friends casually, pretending not to care, but every detail they shared pierced him like a blade. Sometimes he would walk past Baaba's house and see Bempa's motorbike parked outside. He would hide in the shadows, just watching, wondering how his silence had cost him the one thing he wanted most. Darkwah had become a quiet observer of a love story that should have been his. His heart, once full of hope, now beat to the rhythm of regret. After being discharged from the hospital, Darkwah became a shadow of himself. He was often quiet, distant, and spent more time alone than usual. Yet, beneath that silence, his heart boiled with emotions he couldn't share with anyone. Though he told himself he was over it, his actions betrayed his heart. In the evenings, when the Obuasi breeze grew soft and the streets became peaceful, Darkwah would secretly sneak around the corners of Baaba's neighborhood. He knew it was wrong, but he couldn't help himself. From a distance, he would watch her and Bempa laughing, walking together, sometimes seated on the porch. What pained him the most was seeing Bempa gently place his hand around Baaba's shoulders or lean in to whisper something that made her blush. Those little moments crushed Darkwah. Tears would well up in his eyes as he turned away quickly, hoping no one would see the cracks in his soul. Then came the day that broke him completely. Bempa, filled with joy and a heart full of love, took Baaba to a serene garden in town. With the evening sun glowing above them and a few friends secretly watching from afar, Bempa went on one knee, pulled out a modest but beautiful ring and said, "Baaba, I know we've not been together for long, but I've loved you from the moment I saw you. Will you marry me?" Baaba froze for a second. She hadn't seen it coming, but deep in her heart she felt peace, assurance, and a soft flutter she couldn't deny. Smiling through misty eyes, she whispered, "Yes." They embraced, laughter and cheers echoing around them. A few days later, Bempa visited Darkwah to deliver the news. Sitting quietly, trying to read his friend's mood, he finally said, "Darkwah, I proposed to Baaba." And she said, "Yes, we're planning to get married soon." Darkwah's world collapsed. He forced a bitter smile, nodding slowly, but his chest burned with an unspeakable ache. The painful realization hit him. He had lost the woman he loved, not to a stranger, but to his own best friend. The woman he dreamt of marrying would now wear another man's ring, and that man would be standing at the altar in the very place he had imagined himself. When word spread through Obuasi that Bempa and Baaba were getting married, the entire town buzzed with shock. "Hey, are you serious?" some gasped. "But I thought it was Baaba and Darkwah who were in love." Whispers filled the markets and corners, with people struggling to piece together what had happened. To them, Baaba and Darkwah were destined. They had seen the signs, the closeness, the bond. But in love, assumptions are dangerous. Darkwah couldn't hide from the news. The sound of wedding bells that hadn't yet rung echoed painfully in his ears. He avoided people, stayed indoors, and when he did step out, his face was clouded with sorrow. He couldn't control the pain or his emotions anymore. Alone in his room at night, he wept. His heart, once full of hope, was now heavy with regret. He had loved her in silence, and silence had cost him everything. The day Baaba and Bempa came to see Darkwah was the day he would never forget. It was a bright Saturday afternoon. The sun was high, but to Darkwah, everything felt cold. He had just returned from the market when he saw them. Baaba looking radiant, Bempa smiling with that familiar confidence. They asked to speak with him privately. Bempa, with a proud grin, said, "Darko, the date is set." We're getting married next month." Darkwah's heart skipped a beat, but he kept his composure. Before he could fully process the announcement, Bempa continued, "And I want you to be my best man. You've been more than a brother to me. It wouldn't feel right without you by my side." That moment hit Darkwah like a thunderclap. His legs felt weak, his throat dry. He looked at Baaba, her eyes soft, her expression unreadable. Time froze. But Darkwah, the master of hiding pain, smiled. "Wow, thank you. I'd be honored," he said, his voice slightly cracking, but masked with a fake grin. They left shortly after, and as the door shut behind them, Darkwah sank into his chair. For hours, he sat alone in silence, unable to move. That night and many that followed, he barely slept. He imagined himself standing beside Bempa, watching the woman he had silently loved say "I do" to another man. The thought tore him apart. As the wedding approached, invitations were shared, banners printed, friends and family began arriving from across Ghana. Everyone was excited, but Darkwah, he was breaking, silently rehearsing the pain he would feel that day. And then, on the day of the wedding, under the bright Obuasi sky, with canopies set, music in the air, and people dressed in fine kente, something mysterious happened. The Church of Pentecost Auditorium in Obuasi was filled to the brim with friends, family and well-wishers, all eager to witness the union of Baaba and Bempa. The decorations were elegant, the choir sang beautifully, and the air was filled with the sweet fragrance of joy and love. Then came the sacred moment, the vows. The atmosphere grew silent and solemn as the officiating pastor stepped forward, holding the Holy Bible. "Bempa," the pastor began, "do you take Baaba to be your lawfully wedded wife, to love her, honor her, and protect her in good times and in bad, in health and in sickness, for richer or poorer, forsaking all others, till death do you part?" With a steady voice, Bempa responded, "Yes, I do." Turning to Baaba, the pastor continued, "And you, Baaba, do you take Bempa as your lawfully wedded husband, to love, submit to, honor and support him, in joy and sorrow, for better or worse, till death do you part?" Baaba, eyes glistening, said softly, "Yes, I do." The church broke into warm applause. The pastor smiled and signaled for the ring-bearer to hand him the wedding rings. He opened the small velvet-lined box and paused. He looked again, then again. It was empty. Silence fell like a curtain. Where are the rings?" the pastor asked, glancing at the couple. Confusion spread. The ring-bearer insisted he had placed them in the box that morning. Ushers, family members and ministers gathered around, whispering anxiously. A wedding ring going missing on the day of the ceremony? It was unheard of. A bad omen, many murmured. And now, we ask you, who stole the wedding rings? Was it planned, or was it punishment? Will the wedding continue, or be called off? Can love survive a sign like this? Will Darkwah, the silent lover, reclaim the heart he lost? Or will the unforeseen happen, something none of them saw coming? This story is far from over. If you're hungry to know what happens next, don't miss what's coming in the next episode. Subscribe now to Ananse Web of Tales, where African wisdom, real-life drama, mystery and unforgettable lessons are told with truth and soul. Like this video, comment below and share it with your loved ones. Tell us where you're watching from. Your support helps us grow and reach more people across the world. The algorithm listens to you, so help this story go far. Stay stay with us. The mystery deepens. And remember, what is hidden will be revealed. To be continued.